What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of What's on Second, a True Baseball podcast, the All-Star Game edition. We're at the halfway year mark, and it is Richie and Michael. We are back on the diamond yet again for our All-Star festivities. Michael, how you doing, buddy?
I'm living.
Yeah, I
Hanging
know
in
you've been
there.
dealing with some stuff, so we're happy to have a living Michael.
That's always a good thing.
Yes, indeed.
It,
But
I don't know how the Wi-Fi connection works in the afterlife. If that were the
yeah,
case,
it would be a little rougher to make this show if we had to do it that way. I for sure would have to figure some stuff out.
we'll go ahead and put this back into a more happy and positive light, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, what do we got on this All-Star Game roster today?
So our All-Star roster that we're bringing you, it's not. I'm sorry, it's not fan chosen. It is chosen by two people.
Yes,
You don't get a say in it.
Jury of two.
Unless obviously you reach out on the social media handles, then you might get a say. No, I'm kidding.
Which, by the way, we might have to get a new social handle because apparently this new one is just
Thread.
This Thread app is the hottest ticket.
It's making Alania Muscatina kind of fidget uncomfortably, and I'm not gonna lie, I love to see it.
A little pucker up.
Yeah,
never hurt anybody.
But yeah, so this all-star edition of What's on Second, a true baseball podcast, we're gonna kind of come at you with an entirely different outlook on the show because it's kind of about the all-star game. It's coming up real quick next week, so we're recording this actually past the normal record date that we usually do. I had some health issues arise at the beginning of the week that we got taken care of, and now that we're on the right track, we're going to get this out as soon as we can.
Yes.
It might end up coming out before the episode we recorded last week. That way it's at least there for All-Star Week. We'll kind of play around with it. However,
or they might just come out simultaneously. Who knows? We might just put both out right in a row. I'm not afraid to put them out.
Absolutely. It's just more stuff to listen that we're unfortunately droning on about. And I like it. But yeah, so we're going to lead off this episode with the All-Star Game. The rosters, the starters, the reserves, some people that might have gotten gypped, which, I mean, it happens every year. There's too many players on, as of now, 30 teams to get everyone that deserves a shot to be in the game in whatever city's hosting it.
Correct.
Then we'll transition to the home run derby, the participants. The mayor of the home run derby is back for the umpteenth year in a row in the polar bear. Sorry, Richie.
Oh, yes, I know he is. Of course he is. He's always there, though. I mean, to be fair, he's great at it. So I'll give him credit where credit is due.
It's got to burn watching it, but in the same breath, he does bring entertainment to it. But that's a discussion for the home run derby segment.
Yes.
And then once we finish that, we're going to talk about just the general history. And when I say the general history, going back, several years to see, how past All-Star games have gone. We're not going to go the whole length, or this will be a long episode. Our goal today, and actually meaning our goal today, is to make it a shorter one. And then we'll talk about the past several home run derbies, how they fared. And then we will round out this special episode with our predictions on who's going to win, or how undoubtedly maybe the American League will kind of pull it out of their butt again like they did last year.
Yeah,
or maybe the National League finally maybe the National League finally ends their skid. And then our prediction for the home run derby. But Richie, do you want to lead us off with the All-Star Game portion, with the rosters, the starting lineup, your take? What's on your mind?
Sure. So, as we all know, since I am more of a Phillies guy, and since Michael is more of a Guardians guy, we decided that we would only be fair that we split the rosters up by myself doing the National League and him doing the American League. Obviously, we both have opinions, so we're going to definitely interrupt each other on them. But
it happens.
It happens. So the starters for the National League All-Star Game: at catcher, Sean Murphy, no surprise whatsoever. First base, Freddie Freeman from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Second base, Luis Arraez, Mr. 400 himself from Miami. good to see good to see somebody other than a Brave or a Dodger in that spot.
100%.
Because I mean, like this literal roster is made up of like the starters is literally 90% Braves and Dodgers, which just irks me. But then again, it is what it is. So Luis Ariz is at second base. Third base is Mr. Platinum Glove himself, Nolan Arenado, who is always at third base for the National League from the St. Louis Cardinals. Shortstop, Orlando Arcia from Atlanta. We'll talk about him in a little bit because he's actually pretty funny. Good story to mention him there.
Mhm.
In the outfield, in no particular order, because they pretty much can all play any outfield position they want. Uh, we have Ronald Acuna Jr. from Atlanta, aka the MVP so far of the year. Mookie Betts from the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the young stud Corbin Carroll from the Arizona Diamondbacks, which makes me very happy to see a
Worth it.
Diamondback pop in there. He's the only Diamondback I would say is worthy of starting. But and as the DH, it is not my man. It is not. It is not Mr. Bryce Harper. It is JD Martinez of the LA Dodgers, and
Understandably
very
so.
much so, deservingly so. He definitely deserves to be there for that regard. So that is the starters currently from
Hmm.
the National League. I'll let you give any comments you want on those. Honestly, there's not an argument really to be made for any of them. The only
Nope.
one that, selfishly, I'd like to make an
So
argument for JD Martinez not being there and having Bryce Harper, but honestly, JD's playing way better than Bryce is, so I get
yeah.
it.
So I think everyone for the most part deserves to be a starter. JD definitely does, in my
Oh,
opinion.
no,
Sorry.
100%. Oh, no,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
does. He does.
It just if anything, it irks me because I wanted Cleveland to sign JD to be their DH. I understood why they didn't. Especially because he went and got a nice paycheck from the Dodgers, but it's a good starting nine outside of I think Orlando Arcia. I'm pretty sure
Oh,
they could have done something a little bit more there. Now that's not taking anything away from him. He's having a great year, and this Braves team might be one of the best that we've ever seen. It kind of reminds me of the '90s Indians that were just lights out, top to bottom, offensively. One of the things that they pointed out because the Braves just throttled us this past series, although
I
the
wasn't going to bring it
throttling
up.
only the throttling only came because we had to put Cal Quantrill out there yesterday and got demolished. But the first game they went up, I think it was 4-0, and then we scored 2 runs. So we made a game out of it. We tried to come back. It happens. You don't win it. Next game, we went down again, came back. We ended up beating them but then yesterday, Cal Quantrill started, gave up 5 runs before the third inning was over, I believe. So it was done before we even got a chance. Um, so they are a fantastic team. I just think they could have probably gone with someone else at shortstop. Now, who in particular, I couldn't tell you. Maybe
I forget who it was between, to be honest with you. I think it was Dansby, if I had to
I was
guess.
gonna say I would have given it to Dansby over Orlando, but the Braves are so hot right now. Whenever you have a team that's playing as well as the Braves are, and once we get to the American League side, as you'll see, as well as the Rangers are, typically those teams that are either playing that well or are a surprise team end up getting a lot of representation, and in all honesty, deservedly so. But I
Yeah.
like that lineup. It's a good one. It's got me nervous.
Yeah, it's a tough lineup to say the least.
Yeah.
As far as reserves go, the reserves for the National League, at catcher you have both Will Smith of the Los Angeles Dodgers and Elias Diaz, the
Hmm.
one and only Colorado Rocky representative. For the infield, you have from the Atlanta Braves, Matt Olson, Ozzy Albies, and Austin Riley.
Yeah.
From the Chicago Cubs, their one and only representative is Dansby Swanson. From the New York Mets, with all that loaded payroll, their only representative is Pete Alonso. So if you think about this, the only representatives for the both for the New York Mets and, as you'll see here, the Philadelphia Phillies, both who have a higher payroll, um, are Pete Alonso for the Mets and Nick Castellanos in the outfield for the Phillies. They
Hmm.
are behind Miami, who has two representatives in both obviously Mr. Rise, aka Mr. 400. No surprise there. And Jorge Soler, the DH,
Mhm.
has also been nominated. The other reserves for in the outfield are Lourdes Gurriel Jr. From Arizona,
Deserved.
absolutely deservingly, and Juan Soto of San Diego, fishing, but I think they needed to put somebody in there, and I think that was their best option.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So again, the reserves are Will Smith, Elias Diaz, Matt Olson, Ozzy Albies, Austin Riley, Dansby Swanson, Pete Alonso, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Nick Castellanos. And if I hear somebody say Castellanos again on a broadcast, which is a pet peeve of mine, when a broadcaster can't get the names right, it's your one and only freaking job. Juan Soto and Jorge Soler for that. So all deservingly so. I just find it funny that the manager, obviously, of the National League is going to be Rob Thompson because he took the Phillies to the championship last year for the World Series. It's funny that there's only one Philly going.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's not the Philly that everybody would have anticipated going. So
Exactly.
It's pretty funny with that being said, but understandably so. Lastly, the
So,
pitchers. Oh, I'm
yep.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna solid bench. Now, who do you got a pitcher?
Sorry.
You're good.
Fair enough. For pitchers, starting pitchers, we have, and not sure they've announced, and if you know this, you can feel free to interrupt me. They have not announced the starters for the game yet, right? Starting pitcher, I mean. Okay, good. Good. Before I eat my words and say I don't know, and then it happens to be that they've announced it.
Not that I've noticed.
Yeah. Starting pitchers for the National League that are nominated. Zach Gallen, aka the guy who's probably arguably in the lead for the Cy Young so far from the National League. From Arizona, Spencer Strider from Atlanta. Bryce Elder, fishy one to me, but from Atlanta. Justin Steele from the Chicago Cubs. Mitch Keller from Pittsburgh. Josiah Gray from Washington. Clayton Kershaw, even though he's injured. So he was on the roster. He is not going to be there. And Marcus Stroman from Chicago as well. With that. So a lot of really good arms there. I don't know about Bryce Elder. That one's a little fishy to me, but
he's been solid this year.
He has been solid. I'm not saying that, but it just I just don't see him as all-star. I don't know who you would replace him with, to be really honest with you, but he was not the name that jumped off of me. Everybody else, I was kind of like, yep. Okay, cool. I mean, Kershaw's a little stretch to me as well, but I think that's a stretch that's for kind of just keeping a streak alive more than anything. And just representing. For the relievers, which, by the way, we talk about hot teams. There is only one Cincinnati Red nominated to this team, which I find very suspicious, seeing how hot they are. And I'm not talking Ellie De La Cruz, because people brought that up too, and they're like, Ellie should be going. And I said, absolutely not. He's been in the MLB all of 5 minutes. He doesn't get to go to the All-Star game.
Yeah.
The relievers are, for Cincinnati, Alexis Diaz. From San Diego, Josh Hader, absolutely deserved. From Milwaukee, Devin Williams, also another only representative of his team. Shocking there with how well they've played. Right-hander, and then right-hander Camilo Duvall from San Francisco. Again, the only representative from his team. And recently they've just added right-hander David Bednar is going to be the replacement for Clayton Kershaw. So they replaced a starter with a reliever. Good choice there. Bednar's had a really great year and deserves to go and represent his team. The only other person I could have asked for from Pittsburgh maybe was McCutcheon. But hey, what do I know? What do I know?
We're only a couple of podcasters.
Yes, right.
That's
exactly.
all right.
We don't know anything. Even though we're just baseball drunk, eh? The only thing I would say is you could make an argument that Jose Alvarado deserves a chance to go as a reliever. I think that would have been interesting to see. I don't know who he replaces, because honestly, all those guys are pitching great, and Alexis has to go because Cincinnati has no representative. I think Cincinnati has a lot of people that should be representing them there that get no help whatsoever because of their team. And what I mean by their team is where they are.
Yep.
in the grand scheme of things in kind of a mid-market team at best. So that's kind of upsetting. I think that they deserve more representation. I wouldn't be surprised if any more injuries happen. You don't see those kind of switches happen here.
Yeah.
But really, all the injuries happen in the American League. So why don't you give us a rundown of the American League roster there, Mr. Michael?
So for the starters, catcher is Jonah Heim of Texas, incredibly deserved. He's
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I don't want to say come out of nowhere because he kind of made me a little nervous the last couple of years, or at least last year facing him. An ex-Cleveland player is the first base starter, Yandy Diaz. If you've ever seen that guy's arms, it makes you feel really kind of insecure about your own. He's probably got the biggest muscles I've ever seen.
Oh
And
yeah, he's
then
huge.
he's starting at first for Tampa Bay. Second baseman is Texas second baseman Marcus Semien. And I don't want to say I'm surprised because he's such a good player, but it's one of those things where you go with how Texas is playing, you understand it and you get it. Their stud rookie Josh Jung is starting at third base. Can't talk tonight. Corey Seager is the starting shortstop for the American League. Then in the outfield, it's Mike Trout, who is obviously at this point not going to be starting or playing with going under surgery. Then Randy Arozarena and Aaron Judge, who also is not going to be there due to injury. And then Mr. Shohei is the starting DH for the American League. So before I get to the reserves and the starters and the bullpen, what do you think of our starters?
It's stacked. It's very scary. Honestly, you could argue to have more Rays in there that starting wise. I would argue that Seager's a good pick, but I would have picked Wander Franco. At shortstop, I
Yeah.
would have Josh Jung's deserving. Obviously, Trout and Judge should be there. It's a shame that they're both hurt.
Yeah.
With that, you already mentioned Yandy. He's ridiculous. Honestly, I love Jonah Heim. He's kind of been under the radar for me, just because I really didn't know much about him. And really, Philly saw him very early because that was our very first series. So I really didn't get a
Yeah.
chance to appreciate him now.
He is a
But
big
just
kid.
big dude, and I'm in love
Mhm.
with this whole switch hitting catcher thing. I
Yeah.
love it with Adley Rushman. I
Mhm.
love it with this guy. It's just it's such a weapon
Yeah.
to have, and ridiculous. The Yandy is great. I'm kind of happy to see somebody overtake Vladdy for it. Yandy's very deserving. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm pretty sure Vladdy's going as a replacement anyway, but it's a good roster. Watch out for Rosarena too. He's getting kind of used to watching him a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's stupid strong, but he's stupid fast too. Like
Yeah.
he's not slow. It's not any
I-
he does not
Tampa Bay.
sacrifice.
Tampa Bay really is almost like a whole package team. They have speed, they have power. It's what they have. They have what Cleveland didn't last year in terms of the power, because Cleveland had the hitting,
Yes.
Cleveland had the timely hitting, they had the stellar defense, good running, they had speed, they had pitching, they just didn't have power. Tampa Bay has all of it,
Yes, they
and
do.
I mean they're going to be scary come October.
Yes, they are. They're going to be very scary.
Mm. But we'll go ahead and talk about these reserves and pitchers real quick before we go over to the home run derby. The two catchers in the reserves for the American League are Salvador Perez of the Royals and Mr. Rushman of the Baltimore Orioles. Then in the infield, we have Vladdy, Whit Merrifield, and Bo Bichot, all from Toronto. Jose Ramirez from Cleveland, and then Mr. Franco, who has just been added to the roster. So he wasn't even necessarily there. He's going to be replacing someone. Then in the outfield, we have Luis Robert Jr., Austin Hayes, Jordan Alvarez, Adolis Garcia, and Kyle Tucker. Let's see here. So Kyle Tucker. Oh, sorry. I can't believe I forgot this guy. Julio Rodriguez, whom also is an addition now to the reserves. If I had to look at that and guess of who's going to possibly replace Trout and Judge, I would probably go with Luis Robert Jr. being one. He's one of the only bright spots on a otherwise dismal Chicago White Sox roster. Yordan Alvarez is still hurt, so he's not going to be participating, unfortunately. But I kind of wouldn't doubt that we see a fifth Texas Ranger start because Adolis Garcia has been really good. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I could see them maybe having Julio start or Kyle Tucker, but we'll just have to wait and see. That might be someone who just comes in now as a reserve. But then rounding out the position players is Brent Rooker of Oakland, who is technically slotted in as a DH, but pretty sure he could go into the outfield as well.
He can.
Yeah. So then going over to the starters,
I'm going to interrupt you 1 second because I do need to mention one thing. So, there's a mispronunciation of a name, and I have to correct you on it. And I'm sorry. It's Luis Robert. Believe it or not,
it is Robert.
It is Robert. I have found out. I did not know that until I started really listening to it. I started listening. I went back and listened to a couple of the broadcasts from Chicago, and apparently they corrected it. They were corrected by him that it's not Robert,
Ooh.
it's Robert. So, at least that's what I understand. And now I'm going to eventually have to double check that again, probably because I'm sure that I'm sure this has only been done 700 times, but last I checked, it was Luis Robert Jr. But regardless, he still belongs in the dang thing. He's ridiculously strong.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's kind of like one of Cleveland's bullpen pitchers. When you look at the way it's spelled, it looks like it's Enyo de los Santos, but that's
Elia, right?
Nope, it's Angel.
Angel, that's right. I'm sorry, Angel.
Yep. No, you're good. I mean, all the announcers, fans, everyone was saying Angel de los Santos, something like that, and he went
Angel,
and corrected him. But yeah. So transitioning to these starters here, Shohei is,
shocker,
I think, probably going to be the starter if I had to guess. But like you said, shocker. Followed by Garrett Cole, Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Nathan Eovaldi, Kevin Gausman, Shane McClanahan, who is hurt. Then Framber Valdez, Michael Lorenzen, and George Kirby. And then the relievers, there's only 4 of them, which I think this will end up changing. I could be wrong. But it's Kenley Jansen, Emmanuel Clase, Felix Bautista, and Yenier Cano. It's either Cano or Cano, one of the two. But one of the stud relievers from Baltimore. Well, 2 of them, in all honesty. But I think it's a good roster. I look at these. I think the strength for the American League this year is going to be the pitching side.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's a ridiculous pitching staff.
Now, if they end up going with Class A closing, y'all got a good chance to either make it interesting or end up blowing the save because he's been fantastic at that this year. But in my opinion, really good roster.
It is a very good roster. In regards to you mentioning the arms there, Kirby is replacing McClanahan. So as of right now, it is just going to be the 4 relievers.
Which makes sense because they have so many starters.
Because they have so many starters. So, and honestly, Lorenzen's basically a borderline bullpen guy anyway. He's a starter. He's a kind of, he can switch back and forth. And a majority of these guys aren't going to pitch depending on what day of the, when they pitched last and stuff like that. So it all depends. But no, it's a ridiculous roster. I just think it's pretty funny watching, if you look at all the reserves there for, the AL, a lot of them are Toronto, which is understandable. The only name that's kind of questionable to me that shouldn't really be there, I was going to say Whit Merrifield. I mean, good guy. Don't know if he's an all-star guy, but he is a solid player. I don't know about all-star material. He's definitely nowhere near on the level of Vladdy or Bo or any of those guys. Austin Hayes, happy to see him there. He's doing huge things this year. Kyle Tucker deserves to go as a replacement. Really nice pick there. Honestly, was surprised Julio wasn't voted in or by players or other, but he's had a really rough season. So I'm glad he ends up getting to go. And George Kirby's a good pick for the starter role as well. With that. So no, really good rosters. I think honestly, it's a toss-up in my opinion of the game. We're not going there yet for predictions, but it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. But with that, we'll go ahead and transition to the home run derby bracket, which I'm kind of surprised that Luis Robert is. Oh, God darn it! Sorry,
Luis
Luis
Robert.
Robert. Luis Robert Jr. is the top seed. Although I read the ranking of it, because both him and Alonso, who are the 1 and 2 seeds, have 25 home runs. But the reason that Luis is first is because since June 15th, Luis has 9 homers and Alonso only has 3. So that's how they determine that ranking. But the
Also
matchups
doesn't
are,
help that Pete got hurt too. Yeah, so
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but the matchups are going to be first ranked Luis Robert Jr. against number 8 Adley Rushman, which I think is a interesting
yeah.
addition to the home run derby. It makes me excited. Do I see him winning? Probably not with all these names on here, but I've been surprised in home run derbies before, so we got to wait and see.
It would be.
Um,
I would say it could very well depend on which side of the plate Adley's hitting from too. Remember,
oh,
Adley's a
absolutely.
switch, so
I I'm
I
gonna
think if
guess
he's
he goes
smart, he should go to he should be batting from the left side because
left
it's a
side.
shorter porch to right field.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree, and
but
I
yeah,
tend to see
actually, if
him
you
more
look
as a
at it,
lefty.
he's the only guy. I'm sorry, I
Hmm.
interrupted you. He's the
No,
only
you're
guy
good.
with the ability to go to bat left-handed.
Hmm. That's like Jose last year,
Yeah,
and he batted from the other side that I thought he would. So we're gonna end up being wrong, and Adley's gonna go and bat right-handed like Jose
everybody
Ramirez
else.
did. Yeah. But in the next round, it is a rematch of Polar Bear versus J Rod, which is going to be exciting, but almost kind of sad to see them get some sort of like either comeuppance or whatnot, but right off the bat. But that's going to be an exciting round. Third round will be Mookie Betts versus Vlad Jr. If I had to guess right now, Vlad's going to run away with it, especially with how he did in 2019 in Cleveland. Sorry, Mookie, I love you to death, but I'm not entirely sure. And then the final round will be Adolis Garcia versus Randy Arozarena. I think that's going to be a great round because Adolis doesn't. I mean, all these guys don't even have to swing and they can hit it 400 feet. But Garcia is kind of like Randy's teammate Yandy Diaz, where he is just nothing but thick muscle all around. And Randy is so quick. I mean, Randy's a tough, strong dude, but his bat speed is so quick whenever he swings it. Um, I mean, all of this in front of me, it is an exciting derby that I'm looking forward to watching. And I mean, kind of like the All-Star game, we'll get into this not entirely all that much more specific, but the specifics in the next segment or in the last one, it's a toss-up in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm interested to see the Arozarena versus Garcia matchup. They're actually best
Mm-hmm.
friends. I believe
Yeah.
Arozarena is the godfather to Garcia's daughter, or vice versa. So
Wow.
they're very very close. They're very good
Yeah.
friends. So they said whoever wins, they expect the other one to win the home run derby.
Yeah.
Wins between those two.
Yeah.
They said we expect you to win the derby. If you beat the other, vice versa.
Yeah. Yeah.
You say Mookie's in trouble against Vladdy. I think vice versa. I think Mookie has a much easy. I think Mookie can have that smooth swing because Mookie is much smoother than Vladdy in the swing. So I
Good
think
point.
Mookie
Good
could be
point.
very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we all know Pete Alonso is ridiculous. I mean, he's going against J Rod. J Rod luckily does. I mean, J Rod has the home field advantage in that situation, but Alonso doesn't need an advantage. He just can flick his wrists and it's gone. So, as
Mm-hmm.
much as I hate giving credit to the stinking polar bear, but hey, it is the truth
Yeah.
of this. Robert is just yoked out of his mind too. So I'm curious to see how he does
Yeah.
going against Adley. I kind of hope Adley wins, but I wouldn't really be betting money on it. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah.
My money bets are not on him, unfortunately, as
Yeah.
much as I wish they would be. But it's gonna be a
Yeah.
fun derby. A lot
Oh,
of
without a
young
doubt.
talent on here. If you really think about it, the grizzled vets are Alonzo Betts and and Vladdy is hardly a vet. So,
Exactly.
um,
I mean, honestly, Robert would be more of a veteran at this point too.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
He's gonna, I think, is the closest to free agency, at least in Chicago. So, I mean, he's been
Oh,
around
okay.
for what, 4-ish, 5 years now.
Has he really? I didn't notice that. I
It's
mean,
been
very
a hot
possible.
minute,
I'm Yeah,
but
it wouldn't shock me, but I would. It is going to be a fun derby for sure.
yeah,
My question is, will the ball fly in Seattle? It depends on the weather there.
yes. Will it
Um,
fly? And are we going to see anything go over that left field wall and out of the ballpark?
that I
I
highly doubt.
Well, yeah, I think we could because there's so many right-handed guys that their biceps are bigger than their brains. So who knows?
Oh, that's great. I love it. That's such
But
a good line. I hope I'm gonna chop
yeah,
that line, and that's gonna be like the teaser for the whole video or the whole thing. Oh,
biceps bigger than his
bigger than
brain.
their
I have
brains.
stupid humor. It's all
Oh,
good.
it's
I'm a
great.
child.
We love it.
But we'll go
Oh,
ahead and transition to this quick history segment of the show before we wrap this quick episode up. So, in terms of the All-Star game, over the last better part of a decade, the American League has played very, very well. They've won every one of them since 2013. My personal favorite, 100% being biased, is 2019.
of
Um,
course.
and it made it even cooler that our hometown kid got the MVP of it.
Hmm.
But yeah, it has been since 2013 All American League. Before that, the National League won 3 in a row, and then from 2010, 2011, and 2012 it was all the NL, and then before that it was 2009 through uh tech good lord 2009 through 1997, the last time that uh Cleveland hosted the All-Star game, of which a Cleveland player won the MVP of.
Hmm.
So yeah, 97 through 2009 was all the American League. 2002 technically doesn't count because for whatever reason they finished in a tie.
Oh
um
yeah, that was the weird year.
yeah, 7-7 at Miller Park.
Hmm.
uh so it has been quite the dominating performance from the American League. And like, if they end up, if the National League wins, I'm gonna be upset, but it's gonna it's gonna kind of almost be like, all right, it's about darn time, that they pull one out. But I who knows?
Well, you mentioned 2000, like the height of the National League's run was from 2010-ish to like 2013,
2012,
14. Yeah, 12.
3 years in a
Well,
row.
yeah, 3 years in a row. Well, you know what that kind of coincides with? That happens to coincide with the run of the Phillies with all the four aces, with Utley, Howard, Rollins, with all those guys showing up, and that was when and then Atlanta having that was the end of Chipper, but also the height of beginning of Freeman.
Yep.
When all those guys were kind of in their early day primes. Obviously, I'm not
Keyword,
saying that.
keyword, not to interrupt you.
No.
You brought up pitching. It was definitely the pitching side because
Oh yeah.
2010 the NL won 3-1, 2011 the NL won 5-1, and then 2012 the American League just decided not to show up, and
No.
the NL won 8-0.
Yeah, they that was a waxing. That was the last real waxing of a game that there was.
Yeah.
With everything going on. So it's an interesting time.
Uh-huh.
To say the least. But yeah, it's getting old watching and seeing the NL just getting spanked every year.
See,
Uh
I thought yet last year was going to be different, and then Giancarlo deposited that moonshot off of Gonsolin, and then Buxton followed him right up. Even though that pitch, the back to back that Byron hit, was out of the strike zone, and really, I don't know how he got, it got a hit out of it, let alone put it 500 feet. But
Right.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. Um,
Indeed. Yeah, I'm hoping we have some more fireworks. Maybe I would like a little bit. I would be a fan of a little bit more of a small ball
mhm,
game this year too. It would be
yeah,
fun to see a little bit of that because there's not a lot of. I'm not saying that there's no power in the game. There's obviously a lot of it, but some small ball
hmm.
effects would be nice to see. Sprinkled
Oh,
in with a couple
absolutely.
moon balls, we could see some moonshots.
Absolutely. But to go through this Derby history real quick, we'll only go through a couple of them. Last year, obviously, Juan Soto won it after putting on quite the show with J Rod being the runner up. 2011, or sorry, 2011, 2021, the Polar Bear beat Trey Mancini, which I I still remember being bitter that Pete won. As viewers, I don't know if I've actually talked about it on this show or not, but I like the Mets. I like the Phillies. I like many teams outside of a handful. Um,
It's okay. We already know that the phrasing that he just said that he liked the Mets and the Phillies can't be said, but we're gonna
yeah,
let him have it anyway. Can you go ahead?
I like the Mets and the Phillies.
It's like
I
a
have some
capital
hats.
crime to
I just,
anybody on either side of us
I
that
might
is
as
a
well
Mets or
just
a
flick you
Phillies
off
fan.
here. um, but yeah, that 2021 Derby between Pete and Trey, everyone and their mother wanted Mancini to win.
Yeah,
Um,
because that was when Mancini just came back, wasn't it?
from cancer, and that was the
Yeah.
first.
Hmm.
That was the first All Star game. Well, not post COVID because it was still a thing,
Still,
but
yeah.
that was the first one after losing out on the 2020 All Star
Right.
game. But 2019 in Progressive Field was Pete's first win over Vlad Jr. That, I mean, everything aside, bias wise, that was a fantastic home
That
run
one
because
was
of
fun.
all the power and all the home runs that
Yeah.
went out on that one. And then just a couple more here. 2018, Bryce won against Kyle Schwarber, which that was awesome to see with his dad pitching to him.
Hmm.
Um, 2017,
And now they're both teammates. There you go.
yeah, uh, 2017 in Marlins Park, Aaron Judge over Sano, Petco Park, Stanton over Frazier. And then
Stanton before a Yankee. That was Stanton
he's,
in Miami days.
yeah, it was, yeah. And then we'll finish off with this one since it's the current format. Probably, in all honesty, my favorite home run derby, which was 2015 at Great American Ballpark when Todd Frazier beat Jock Peterson.
Hmm.
I just like, was it anything crazy? No, but just thinking about it now, I'm getting the goosebumps. That was just such a fun derby because it was reinvented and no one knew, okay, what's this going to be like? They don't have
Yeah.
outs now. It's just, let's see how many you can yoke out of here in this time frame, and that one was my personal favorite
Yeah.
next to 2019.
Sure, of course. So, do you enjoy the new frame or new frame? Wow, let's try again. Do you enjoy the new format? Is what I meant to say. Because we are obviously old enough to have lived in the days of 10 outs,
Mm-hmm.
where the derby takes 4 hours, which
um
is fun to watch, but after a while it got real old real fast.
yes, I I enjoy this. Yeah, I'm the nostalgic and old man not liking change shtick part of me misses the 10 out thing because it's what we grew up with. But the way that they do it now, you get so much more action. And where I will agree with baseball and Rob Manfred's undying obsession with speeding everything up, yes, I love baseball. I love the home runs. As I've gotten older, I appreciate pitchers duels and things like that. But I like going to the ballpark and seeing a ball get belted 400 feet.
Sure.
Um, so the more home runs, the better. I like just the pace of it and how it just adds a lot of electricity, as opposed to how it used to be. Now I can remember the what was it 2009 home run derby in New Yankee Stadium when Josh Hamilton went on that insane run, even with the 10 outs. and set a bunch of records. But no, this one's a lot
Yeah,
more
but he
fun.
ends up losing the Derby because he has no steam left
It's
by
because
the end.
exactly
He's
who won it.
gone. He's cooked.
Let me check real quick.
It was somebody. He made it to the final. He lost in the final
So
to somebody.
it wasn't 2009. It was 2008, and he lost to Justin Morneau of the
Right.
Twins.
Of the Twins. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. He lost to Morneau because short left field porch.
Well, Hamilton's a left-handed pitcher too, or hitter as well.
Well, I know, and that's why
Yeah,
you noticed those two were the last two standing. But I mean,
yeah,
yeah, Hamilton was raking in that
yeah.
thing, and just I mean, it's like going out there and hitting nothing but like when you're a golfer, if you go out and hit nothing but drivers for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, you're
Hmm.
absolutely gassed. Like, uh,
Yeah.
it's a lot to take on. So imagine having to hit home run after home run after home run, and it's not collective. After the round's done, it's ball game. That round's done, and you got to do it again. It was like,
Yep.
okay, like this is awesome to see him break this record. It stinks that he didn't get anything more
Get to
out of it other
win.
than that. Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't get to win. Yeah. Because it's like the dude hit like almost 100 home runs that day. Like,
Yeah.
like how is
Uh,
he not the winner?
but before we go to this predictions aspect of the show and round things out, which format do you prefer?
Oh, I prefer the new format so much more. I think
Hmm.
it's more fun. I think it's more entertaining. I am locked in the entire time. I get
Hmm.
a nice break in between the two, in between the rounds.
Yeah.
I think it's a fun round robin. I think it also shows who's there that day. Is it
Hmm.
necessarily who's the best home run hitter each of the whole year? No. But it's of that day between the 8 of the best sluggers that they could get for the Derby. I think it's great.
Exactly.
I also think they don't change their swings as much in this new format. If you've noticed, nobody really goes
No.
through. It's not like in years past where we saw the home run derby drought after you do the derby. So
Yeah.
I like that a lot more
Yeah.
as well.
But with that, we'll go ahead and round this episode out with a little bit of predictions. Richie, since I have bullied the heck out of you for the last 10, 11 years now, what's your prediction for the All-Star game?
My heart says to go with my side, but my head says, nah, it's going to be the AL. I think the AL wins simply. Just the pitching matchups are just
Mm-hmm.
slanted so much more in your way. I mean, give me Gowan and Strider. They can go head to head against any of those guys that you have over there, but you're looking at Otani, Cole, Castillo, Gray, Evaldi, Gossman. I'm like, oh my gosh, my head is
Yeah.
spinning just thinking about these guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if McClanahan was healthy, Valdez, you know,
Yeah.
Kirby, and I'm not even naming the guys in the bullpen yet, like Kelly
Yeah.
Jansen, Clase, and Batista and Cano. Like,
Yeah.
you know, all those guys are great and they should be there. I think the
Huh.
rosters are both equal. I think the pitching
Yeah.
side's for the AL.
I I want to go with the NL just to play devil's advocate, but I think the AL comes through with a final score of 5-2.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's somewhere around the lines of like 4-2 or 4-1, something like that. I don't think
Yeah.
you're going to see a lot of runs scored by the NL side,
Nope.
unless they make an agreement to throw cookie cutters up at each other, which they're not going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
But no, I think it's going to be a close game. Which side note before we do our home run derby prediction for the All-Star game, I really don't want to see a slugfest. It's
no,
I want to see that's the one thing where like okay, give me a cup like a 2-run homer here or there, a solo shot, sure. I would rather see a 6-5, 5-1, like something where it's not.
it's a battle. You don't want
Yeah,
anybody running away with it.
yeah. I mean now 8-0 when you got the last time the NL won. I mean when it happens every now and again, fine. And if you're on the losing shtick of that, like I was, it doesn't feel good, but it is what it is. But yeah, I think the AL squeaks out another one.
I do as
But
well.
for the home run derby, Who do you have in your final?
My final two, and now I gotta make sure that this would work in the bracket format. I realized I was like gonna name two names, and I was like, that may not work in the bracket. I think so. How my bracket would goes, and I haven't filled it out yet, but I should. I think Robert ends up beating Adley as much as I want Adley to win. I think Arozarena beats Garcia. I think Julio's gonna upset Pete again, mainly because I don't think Pete's healthy enough. I was surprised Pete took the invite because he's really not healthy. And I'm not saying that as a hater of Pete Alonso. I'm saying it as he just got his arm wrecked. He came back stupid fast, and I think that was out of necessity, but I would be resting if I was him. And I think Vladdy will beat Betts, even though I said earlier, obviously, I think that's going to be a much closer matchup than you might have thought. So then I actually would have a Arozarena beat Luis Robert. I would have Vladdy beat Julio. And I think actually I'm going to pick Randy Arozarena as my home run derby champion.
All right, that's very solid. I mean, obviously, what you said and what I'm going to say could go completely the opposite way.
Oh, this could go so sideways for me in 3 seconds, and I could look like the dumbest person of all time. But that's
we will be absolute goobers. But I like that. Solid picks. I mean, can't go wrong either way. You can't go wrong if you say, "Oh, Adley's going to beat Luis Robert," 100%. But I agree. I think Luis beats Adley. And I love Adley. I think Luis beats him kind of handily, though.
Wouldn't be shocked.
Then I think Adolis beats Randy, so that's where I'll differ with you a little bit. I agree, Vladdy over Mookie. Oh, wait, did you say Mookie or Vladdy?
I said Vladdy over Mookie.
Okay,
I said they'll be closer than you think, but I picked Vladdy still.
All right, yeah, I think it's Vlad as well. And I agree, J Rod's gonna beat the polar bear. It makes sense to say, you know, oh, I'm surprised he took the challenge. You know how much of a dog he is, you know, because he really wants him to throw him another one. We cannot forget that he wants him to throw him another one so badly. He said, please throw me another one.
Yeah, and then his team tanked. So please go ahead and throw him another one.
I love him. But I think J-Rod's going to have so much, you know, fun and energy from that crowd in his home ballpark. I'm going to give him the edge there. Then I'm going to say that Garcia beats Luis and that J-Rod beats Vladimir.
Okay.
In round 2. Simply because I want to see the hometown guy get to the finals. However, I think Adolis Garcia ends up being the champion.
Interesting. So we both picked the winner of the 4-5. You have Garcia, I have Arozarena, but the winner of the 4-5 matchup wins the
home run derby.
Home run derby for us.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
I like that. That's a fun one.
So when it comes to the derby on, what is it, probably Monday?
Yeah.
One of us is going to be crying really soon. Right.
Yeah, really. We're going to be like, dang it, man.
Not as bad as what Yankees fans are crying right now, and I absolutely love it.
Oh, that good, eh?
It is 8-0 Baltimore, bottom of the third.
Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't say I'm surprised there.
No. But guys, we want to thank you for joining us on a special all-star edition of What's on Second, a true baseball podcast. This was a fun episode to do, changing it up a little bit. Next episode, well, not the one that's going to get released with this one, but the next episode will go back to the normal format. We might end up changing it a little bit. It's probably going to be a little bit of a longer one because we'll have to address the elephant in the room, which is the start of the second half of the season. Whether that's actually, you know what, on air-ish, on record, because I'll leave this in the episode. We need to do updated predictions on
we do
the postseason. And
Yeah, I might have to change some of my words there because
we both
I don't know.
we
I
both
have
are going
some
to have
mighty
to.
woofs going on right now in some of
Oh
mine.
yeah. But yeah, just to let you guys know, we're going to be giving two more predictions. One will be either the very next episode we record or the one just after it. But then we'll also do one after the trade deadline
Oh
because
yes.
obviously things could look quite a bit different with some player shakeup. But we want to thank you for joining us. Hit up those socials. Let us know how crazy our picks are and how sad it is to have a 10-year losing streak. And I'm saying that to try and be like, all right, whenever the NL eventually destroys us, it was about time. But thank you again. We hope to see you out there on the diamond next week.